Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Shit's Hard. I'm your host, Amber, and today we are talking about yoga, forgiveness, a deeper level of consciousness, holding grudges, family stuff, kind of a bit of like a part 2 from the last episode, but not really. Basically, we are going to touch on how yoga has helped me mentally through a lot of the things that I've been going through, holding a grudge, and how that really only hurts you. What's killing me is in my notes here, I wrote, holding a grudge only helps you, which is hilarious. We're also going to talk about research versus application. I feel like this has been on my mind a lot lately. I mentioned in the last episode, I've been reading books about trauma experts and, things written by psychiatrists and MDs, and it's important to do research. I have a lot of friends who are interested in personal growth and development, but I kind of want to talk about the bridging the gap between doing the research and learning the information and applying it to your life. I feel like that's something that I'm having trouble with, and it's tricky. It's not easy. It's so easy to be like, be good to other people, don't hold grudges, forgiveness, but when you really, really look at your own life and the people in your life and the relationships that you have, how to actually apply it is really hard. I'm trying to apply this to my relationships. The relationship I have with my mom is a tough one that comes to mind. We talked in the last episode about that relationship and how it's quite sticky. And I'm trying to get to the point. I feel like I went through phases with that relationship. I went through like probably denial when I was younger. I went through like a phase of trying to like talk to her and fix things. And then when I got to college, I went through a phase of like kind of anger, like acceptance and anger of like, fuck you, you're missing out. And then I feel like now I'm trying to get to a point of peace of like, you know what? You got your own trauma, you got your own unhealed shit that you projected onto me for years, and that sucks. But it had nothing to do with me, and it was everything to do with you. So it's difficult when you really, I feel like my third eye is opening. I don't know if I necessarily believe in that kind of stuff, but I do think when you get to a deeper level of consciousness, you really realize that all people are just people. There are no good people. There are no bad people. Quite literally, they're just people. And people do bad things and they do good things, but every bad person out there has done some really good things and has been a hero in someone's story. And there's a lot of good people out there who have done some not so great things or have been the villain in someone's story. And when you try to look at things objectively or try to zoom out and see the bigger picture of what's going on, it will free you, I feel like. I've been thinking of this in regards to a toxic relationship that I had where I really feel like as I look past on this relationship, I feel like the worst side of me was brought out. And I'm not saying this person brings out the worst in me, but it's so true. When two people aren't compatible, when you try to make something work that isn't working, that's when you get the toxicity. That's when, resentment starts to build and not seeing eye to eye on things starts to fester, but you choose to stay in a sorry attempt to make it work, when in reality, you're just denying the truth, which is you're not compatible. And that's okay, but it's like we like to villainize people, right? People who have done us wrong. I wasn't even planning on speaking on this, but now that it's coming to mind, the roommate that I mentioned with you guys, who was a close friend of mine and then ended up really not being who I thought he was, whatever. Not friends anymore at all, but I don't think he's a bad person. This is hard for me to say because I'm like, fuck that guy. I think he did some bad things, and he's also done some really good things. And that's what makes friendship tricky. My ex-best friend who moved in with my ex, crazy enough, via social media, it seems as if her little sister is now like dating my ex, which is pretty insane. It's easy to villainize her and be like, that's so fucked up. Your best friend moves in with your ex-boyfriend. Like, what the fuck's wrong with her? Like, she never cared about you. it's just not the case. The truth is people can care about you and do shitty things to you. Life is not black and white. I think we really like to see things in black and white. We love to dumb things down because it makes it digestible. Life is complicated. People are really complicated and complex. And I don't want this to be a story of convincing you to stay with somebody who's toxic or stay in a friendship that's no longer serving you, because that's not acceptable either. But it's important not to villainize the person, villainize their actions. And these people that we want to villainize as, oh, they're such a shitty person, I would never do that. You're not better than them. And I say this in regards to myself. There's been plenty of people who I'm sure that I villainize or I call shitty or I'm like, fuck that person. They did a really bad thing. I would never do that. We're almost like trying to justify that, like, well, I'm better than them. I'm a better person than them. You're not. You're not a worse person than them. I'm not a worse person than these people. We're quite literally all people doing our best. And what's really hard to come to terms with, at least for me, was sometimes people's best fucking sucks. Like, truly. One of my best friends said one time, like a long time ago, you can only meet people where they've met themselves. And I just think about it all the time because it's so like vague, low key. Like, it's like, what the fuck does that mean? It sounds like some fucking like yogi shit. But when you really sit with it and get to understand, people can only meet you. They can only come to you. They can only show up for you in the way that they've met themselves, in the way that they show up for themselves, in the way that they see themselves. And when you understand that, you can start to have a little more empathy for other people. You can start to see that, you know, the people who have hurt you are also hurting themselves. You know, especially in regards to toxic relationships, and you're not quite seeing eye to eye with somebody, it's because, you know, it's like when someone's being dishonest with you, you know, there obviously could be a million reasons as to why. But a lot of times in this specific toxic relationship I'm referring to, this person was being dishonest with themselves. And that fucking sucks. Like, when I really think about it, I'm like, this person is not a bad person. He's a really hurt person who is deeply troubled and has a lot of mental health issues that have gone unresolved and unhealed. And in reality, that sucks. I have a lot of sympathy for this person. I hate that. You know, I hate it when I feel like I'm able to understand that someone else is having a hard time coming to terms with reality themselves. They're not lying to me, they're lying to themselves. And that sucks. I've learned when people are really shitty to you, really outwardly shitty, very outwardly judgmental, or the way that people treat you is usually a way that they treat themselves, if that makes sense. These people typically don't like themselves very much. And so they don't know how to love. They don't even know how to love themselves. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like now that I'm seeing other people through that lens, I'm seeing my mom through that lens. She probably thinks that she loves me. She probably thinks that she's a great mom. That's not the point of what we're talking about today. The point is, she doesn't even know how to care for herself. She doesn't even know how to show up for herself. How could she possibly know how to show up for me? How could she possibly know how to love me? And for me, it's clarifying, and it feels more peaceful to, you know, because I don't fucking know what happens at the end of this. I don't know what happens when we die. I don't know if there's heaven and hell, whatever. That's another conversation. You know, what I'm saying right now could be a bunch of foo-foo. It really could. But it is more peaceful for me to believe that there are no evil people. There are very hurt people. And I think when we write people off as evil, as sent by the devil, we're taking a very lazy approach, right? We're trying to see things as black and white. We're trying to demonize them as bad, and therefore, in that act, justify us as good. It's kind of like putting ourselves as the victim. And in most situations, especially like toxic relationships is kind of what I'm referring to in regards to not necessarily my mom, because I don't think a parent-child relationship is mutual. However, maybe a toxic romantic relationship, even a toxic friendship, you know? I've had a few of those drop off lately. Typically, we all played a role. Even if somebody is super, super shitty to you, right? Like my mom was never great to me. My dad is an enabler. He is arguably just as guilty as he did not stand up for me. He did not condemn my mom. He did not say, hey, you can't treat our daughter like that. That's problematic. And so I want to say, like, nobody gets off free. And especially in this toxic relationship that I'm referring to in my own life, I played a role and I became toxic in myself in the choice to stay. Now, from the beginning, once I saw the toxic behavior, if I would have dipped, it would have been a week-long thing. It wouldn't even have gone on for as long as it did. And it would have been like, that guy's whack, keep it moving. But instead, I decided to stay. And in that decision was toxic in and of itself. To try to make something work that wasn't. To try to fix somebody who doesn't want to be fixed. To try to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. It's not healthy. Trying to fix other people, even with the good intentions, right? We want what's best for other people. We can see that they're struggling. But if somebody doesn't want help, forcing it upon them is equally as toxic as whatever toxic traits that they're spewing onto you. My point in all of this is sometimes I think trying to simplify things down to this person's a villain and demonize them, we are exempting ourselves from accountability. And that's not where growth happens. Saying, you know, this person did this wrong thing to me, you know, maybe that's really is the case. You know, sometimes it really is the case, right? Like if your partner cheats on you, obviously there's a very evident person who's guilty and person who's not. So this is not to be applied to everything. But I guess I don't mean like one small instance. I more so mean like over the span of time. And I think the best thing that I've learned to do for myself is walk away. I think the most toxic thing that I did was stay. Because when I stayed in a futile attempt to fix something that, you know, the other person evidently was not interested in fixing, I was choosing to partake in something that I knew wasn't going to work, or I guess like for me, that's a turning point for it becoming toxic. I think with my ex-best friend who moved in with my ex, that's one thing that I feel very proud of myself for, because I do think I handled it well because I left. Because I voiced my opinions in a respectful way. I cried. I said, this is, you know, this, and this is making me feel a certain way. I didn't get the answer I was looking for, and that's okay. She has every right to have her own opinion as I do. But once she responded to me saying, hey, this is my pain, I also have every right to walk away. And I think for me, that was like a moment there I was like, oh, I see growth in myself, and I felt proud. Because a past me would have stayed after I voiced my concerns. Hey, when you moved in with my ex, it didn't make me feel great. This, that, and the other. And she kind of met me with, well, I had to do it. So like, I'm not going to apologize. A past me would have stayed. Because honestly, in the conversation we had wasn't toxic. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't an argument. It was a very adult, mature conversation, a back and forth dialogue. It was respectful. And I want to emphasize, this person is a very respectful person. She's not a villain. She's not an evil demon human being at all. We actually had quite a good time for 3 years as best friends. I have a lot of love for this person. I hope she gets everything she wants out of life. I'm always rooting for her. It's a much more peaceful way to live than holding a grudge over one thing that she did and forgetting 3 years of amazing times we had. We moved across the country together. And there's a lot of... this is what makes it sticky. This is what makes people complex. And it would be so easy to write her off as evil. But I would be stunning my own growth and standing in my own way of living peacefully by writing her off as this animal demon person who, was so shitty and did this one bad thing. And she probably never cared about me for those 3 years. It's like, people don't fucking pretend to be someone else for years. Like, she wasn't faking. She was a good person. She was a good friend until she wasn't. And that's okay. People change. We had a different opinion. People outgrow each other. And it's exactly what my other best friend had said. people can only meet you where they've met themselves. She wasn't ready to come forward and take accountability. She wasn't ready to say, hey, I do feel like I had to do this, but I should have taken your emotions into check. I should have taken that into account, whatever. Either way, I do feel like I handled that well because I ended it. Because once I could see it wasn't going in a healthy direction, once I could see we're not on the same page and we're not even interested in getting on the same page. Like at least for me, I felt this person wasn't interested in getting on the same page as me. I need to excuse myself from the relationship. Not out of hate, not out of spite, not out of avoidance. No, I voiced what I need to say. She said what she needed to say. We weren't seeing eye to eye. Okay, we move on. I kind of feel that way with my mom at this point. I feel like I'm kind of working on acceptance, on accepting who people are. And I want to be clear, accepting who people are is not accepting their behavior and letting it continue, but to stop holding out for people's potential. I have a tendency to do that often enough. I love people. I love the opportunity for growth and change. I love it when I meet someone who I feel like is interested in the pursuit of being a better person or a better man or a better woman, a better mother, sister, brother, a better partner. I think that's my people, is people who are interested in growth. But again, I say you can only meet them where they've met themselves. So if they're not ready to cut into certain avenues of their life, or they're not ready. You really can't force it. You really need to accept this is where they're at. And people are on their own journey and they're going to change at their own rates. And we can be encouraging and supportive of them, of course. But I don't know. I feel like that's where I'm at with my mom, is accepting that she is this way, understanding that it wasn't personal to me. I did nothing as a child to deserve whatever that relationship is, but I also don't have to tolerate it either. I know this is a sticky one. It's kind of controversial. A lot of people believe family is everything, blood is everything. For me, it's not. Sharing my blood and DNA in the grand scheme of things is not that important to me. How do you treat me? How do you show up for me? Those things are significantly more important to me than sharing blood or DNA. And I feel super grateful. I've found a good handful of people in the world who share no DNA with me whatsoever. And I've treated me like more than family. So for me, blood doesn't mean much. It's not an excuse to accept some really shitty behavior. If that's anything that you struggle with, I'm sorry, because it really does suck. I wish everyone had a happy, loving family that stayed together for the longevity of their life. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And I think I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to be resentful anymore. But I also don't have to tolerate it either, if you know what I mean. I wanted to talk a little bit about yoga in this episode, just because it's been really great for me. I've never been super holistic. I have a few friends who they'd consider themselves a little woo-woo, which is cute. I've never really considered myself to be that way. I mean, I went to Catholic school for a long time. I kind of grew out of religion, not really religious anymore. I wouldn't consider myself spiritual. I do believe like the universe has its ways. I do think like, I don't know which one it is. Agnostic? I think atheist is you believe in nothing. Agnostic is you believe in something. I don't fucking know. I could be wrong. Either way, I do think there's something higher being of that sort. And so I do look for meaning in things. And like I said earlier, what I'm saying could all just be a bunch of hoo-ha, but choosing to take an optimistic approach to life is, for me, it's just going to feel better. It's not going to hurt me. And choosing to believe that I don't think people are bad, I don't think people are evil is going to help my mental health. I think if I really leaned into people are good and bad, there are evil people out there, my anxiety would be off the charts. My cortisol would be fucked. Everything would be fucked. So for me, my teeny little brain can't deal with that reality. And so I choose to, of course, acknowledge maybe this is a bunch of hoo-ha. Maybe there is no higher power. Maybe everything doesn't have a reason. Maybe everything doesn't happen for a reason. And I don't think everything does, but I do feel like for me anyway, sometimes the universe is pushing me in a direction, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's me and my brain pushing me in a direction. Maybe it's my subconscious choosing to see this or that or the other. Whichever it may be, I feel like yoga has helped me connect to myself more. Meditation has been great in terms of like the silence of meditation is giving me clarity and just strengthening my relationship with myself. And I was talking to a friend earlier, it's the most important relationship of your whole life is your relationship with yourself. And if that one's not strong, if that one's not good, if it's not unbreakable, if it falters, it will trickle into every other relationship, every other avenue of your life. So it's an important one. And I've done a good job, I think, so far of prioritizing it. Obviously, we all have better days and not so good days, but yoga has helped me foster that relationship with myself. It's something that I do alone. I go alone. I have a studio that I really like. I have instructors that I really like. And I'm a people person. I love to do things with friends and other people. So finally, I do feel like I found something that's just me. And I go very intentionally for myself. And meditating was so hard. When I first started, I was like, what the fuck? You're just supposed to shut up and like, think about what? Nothing? What does it mean to think about nothing? That doesn't make sense. Literally, that's how I felt like a year ago. So if that's where you're at, I totally get you. Like 100%, that's exactly how I felt. I feel like that's how everyone feels. But with time, I try to just be open to it. Similar to therapy, similar to EMDR therapy. You just got to be open. Be so vulnerable. If you're going to a yoga class, if you're going to therapy, if you're trying something to that degree, just be open, be vulnerable to what may come, and, try to follow the directions and try to, do what they're saying. And it's not going to like be like the first time you might be like, what the fuck? I'm feeling this way within EMDR therapy. It's very like with the self-tapping and the like, visualizing. It's like, it's a little bit strange. I don't know if it's working. I've only done 2 sessions of EMDR, but I'm going to be open. And these things have a ton of research backing it up. So even in yoga, sometimes they like chant ohms at the beginning, or there's certain like breathing techniques. There's like one that's called lion's breath that if you're watching the video, this is what it's like. It's like, you like stick out your tongue. You like take a big breath out. It looks crazy. It looks so weird. The first time I did it, I was like, this is so embarrassing. Like I feel embarrassed. But once you realize that nobody in a yoga class is watching you, nobody there is judging you. Actually, everyone's there to really be vulnerable and get out of your comfort zone and connect deeper to themselves. They're all there in the pursuit of themselves and community. It's a great community there. I've noticed too, and there's science backing this up as well, that group movement, just synchronized group movement is so good. I mean, as people, we're people. We all are, really. Humans are not meant to live in isolation. Literally, we're not meant to. It's not healthy. And even for kids, but even adults, synchronized movement, dancing, synchronized swimming, a yoga class, like anything to that degree where you're doing choir, singing, anything to that degree where you're in tune with other people is so good for you. It's good for your brain. And I feel it. I feel like I've done a few yoga sessions at home or at the gym. I'll find a little corner and I'll do a little flow on my own. And I love those. And I love being in the zone by myself. And I enjoy exercising my creative ability to make up my own flow because that's kind of fun, right? But there is something about being in a yoga studio and having that heat on and having that ambiance. If they're dimming the lights, they're bringing up the lights. There's an instructor there that at the end of class will put a cold towel at the end of your mat. And just being there with all these other people and the energy in the room is like, it's different. It's unmatched. Everyone is there in the pursuit of wellness, of wholeness, of connection to themselves, to mind, body, and spirit. And it's just like, I really like it. I really like the instructors because I can tell that they really like their jobs. They like what they do. They come in ready like they're just like, when you can tell somebody believes in their product or they really believe in what they do, that's the energy there. So I don't know. I've been thinking lately I kind of want to do like a yoga retreat, although I've never done one before and they're kind of pricey. So we'll see if I find something to get into. But it's been a really good adventure in terms of mental health for me and physical. I've kind of been on and off again lifting, but I've really been diving into yoga, and it's also really helped me in my training as a personal trainer. It's helped me a lot I have some super anxious girlies, and just knowing like certain breathing rhythms or how breath can help you during movement, synchronized breath to movement. I have a few injuries. My injured girls, like yoga has helped me more with injuries than anything, which is kind of funny. Just like with the balance, balance isn't a hot thing to work out. It's just like a thing you should work on, but it's not like fun by any means. But that kind of stuff is a different challenge for me in yoga because, I've done strength training for like 8 years now. So it's challenging me in a new way, which is fun. It's fun to be the student. But all that to say, I want to bring it back to research and application though. It's really difficult, but when you are, I assume people watching this podcast are interested in the pursuit of growth and development. That's kind of like all that I talk about. So if you are learning, reading, researching, watching TikToks, podcasts, however you consume your content about mental health, about trauma, maybe about something that's close to you, maybe it's depression, anxiety, maybe it's, immature or unhealthy parent or whatever the fuck you may be researching or looking into, I would really challenge you, once you read something, once you listen to something, once you watch a video, pause the video, like exit the app, close the book, whatever it may be, and really sit with application. How does this apply to my life? And not just one person. I'm going to challenge you to apply it to multiple. Like when I've been reading about certain relationship dynamics, I'm reading this amazing book right now. It's called Rage Becomes Her. So fucking phenomenal. It's very good. It kind of touches on women and female rage and like anger, and how does anger affect us all? How does anger affect men? How does it affect women? How do we look at angry women in society? How do we look at angry men? And it's just like, it's a really interesting book. And as I read some statistics in there about this and that, I apply it to the real world. So that I think about the women that I know, the men that I know, the women I know in the workplace. When I read something about relationships or statistics on certain relationships or this or that, I think about the relationships that I know, the couples that I know. And I kind of like, I'm thinking about these things. I think for me, it helps me to like actually understand the concepts, right? Again, because we know, be a good person, blah, 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 blah. We know like to be a good partner, you gotta be honest, whatever the fuck. But it's important when we read these like research and concepts and we try to apply it to the people in our lives, because then we can see it. It's like watching it on a movie. It's like, it's, when you're like fucking in college and it's like, fucking college isn't shit, like in terms of experience. Like once you get to the real world in whatever degree or whatever career path you may take, real world experience is the only like cold, hard way that you're going to learn about your field, whether that be, architecture, design, fucking engineering, whatever it could be. Sure, school's great, grad school's great, but like once you're in the business and you get that first job, that's when the real learning takes place, because it's application. That's kind of the way that I'm viewing mental health and relationships and self-help and growth and development. How do I apply these things that I'm learning to my relationships, to my friendships, to, my relationship with my siblings, to my friends? And I feel like that's how I've really like deeply understood concepts, and it's helping me to be more empathetic, more understanding, more I can see things from other people's perspective better than I could before. So that's kind of what we're working on this week, is applying all your mental health research and knowledge to the people and the relationships in your own life, and even yourself. So really trying to sit and look in the mirror and reflect that way too, and say, oh, okay, well, obviously we're talking about somebody doing us wrong. So this is how, I'm thinking about my mom, but how do I flip it? What about people that I've done wrong? How do they feel toward me? Oh, this is how they are feeling. How can I be more accountable for that? Because I've played both roles, right? I've been the victim, I've been the perpetrator, and it's important to like try to see things like literally in your brain, just like twist. I'm picturing when I was in architecture school and I was on fucking like Rhino. No one probably fucking knows what that is. It's a fucking software, like a 3D software for building shit. And I'm picturing like when you would rotate the building around, rotate and like flip the script, turn the table, and try to see things from like, oh, when I'm the victim and people have done shitty things to me, but also flip it to, oh, when I've been a bit of an asshole and I could have been better. And how do we move forward knowing what we know about playing both roles? Villainizing people just isn't the move. I think I would challenge you, if that's kind of something you're falling into, to just question yourself on that and dig a little bit deeper. And it's going to be uncomfy. Because we villainize people because it's comfy, it's easier. So really try to dig in and say, you know what role did I play? How did I actually contribute to this getting to this point? Even if somebody else did something super fucked up to you, trying to do that little extra, like, okay, we both played a role. Even if they played a significantly bigger role, there's something here for me to learn. Shit I'm wondering this week is like, what does it mean to truly forgive and move the fuck on? I'm trying to. I'm in therapy. I'm doing EMDR. I'm trying to like really let things go. It's like I know that my mom, the way that she behaved toward me wasn't personal. I know I didn't do anything to deserve it, but it's hard to like, how do you really get that? How do you stick it in the brain and like make it stick? How do you know that it's stuck? Will it ever stick? I'm sure this isn't something that I'll ever just be totally over and done with and gone. But I am kind of wondering, like, how do I know when I've truly let go? And am I already there? I don't know. That's a shit I'm wondering this week. That's all I've got for you. But if these are things that you're struggling with, I am right there with you. Unfortunately, sticky family relationships will probably continue to be a topic of this season. But I hope that it's helping at least one person out there. And we're all in the pursuit of growth and development. We're all going at our own rates. So as long as you're trying, you are also doing the best that you can. Don't forget that other people are too, though. So that's what I've got for you. I will see you on the next one because this shit is hard.